understanding how different keywords relate to each other. And the more you use keywords as against whole sentences, the more you increase the generative nature of your topic. I'm going to actually give you a quick example. So if I was to say, I was very unhappy in the afternoon, it's a sentence, or it's a phrase that I'm using. Now, there are very few associations that I can make with this sentence because it pretty much stops my mind map right there. That said, if I were to actually go ahead and say afternoon, we're talking about the afternoon here, and I say that I was unhappy about something, and I'm putting a symbol out there. You could actually put a picture, and we'll talk about the uses of pictures in mind maps in a bit. So let's say I put a picture there, and I say I was unhappy because I was feeling ill, or because I was, scolded by my girlfriend, or I missed an appointment. What I've done is I've actually gone ahead and created a number of associations with the unhappy situation. Now, there could have been something that made me happy in the afternoon, right? So since I've got just one word out there, I could actually go ahead and put a happy stream. And why was I happy? Because it was a sunny afternoon, because I received my paycheck, and what have you. So as you can see, we've gone ahead and created a whole bunch of associations as a result of using just one word. And when you're doing something like this in classroom, having that one word up there triggers a number of associations for your students, and you can actually make your mind map really, really generative. Okay, so that's the one word per line rule. Remember, all of these are just principles. For example, I've used more than one word here, and the idea is to use a representative phrase. Now, I could actually split this out. I choose not to because it's not a sentence, and it's generally a key phrase. So just keep that in mind. Nothing's a strong rule. It's more a guiding principle. Okay, a couple of other rules, and the next rule is about central lines. Now you can see that there's this central line and there's this central line, and the way these differ from the other lines is that this one is comparatively thick than this one, or this one, or this one. What you also would notice is that the text here on this central line is bigger, bolder, and more visible. So the idea is to ensure that your central lines are thicker and have greater emphasis. Now, what this helps you do is identify what are the main topics in your which are connected to your central idea, and what it helps you do is understand the different ways you've been thinking about that topic, and get a very clear idea up front without actually having to go into the details. What you can also choose to do is forget about one part of the mind map and just focus on one, because you just want to know what a mind map is, and right now you don't want to focus on the principles. So having a strong, thick central line helps you structure your mind map better. Okay, so that's one rule, or principle, let me say. There's the other rule of using connections. And you can often make connections using arrows. Now, I'm going to try and make a connection. I'm not sure if I can do this here. So I'm going to try and insert draw an arrow, okay? So let's see if it allows me to draw an arrow here. Okay, it doesn't allow me to draw an arrow to the central image, but generally you'd like to be able to draw arrows to connect different topics in the mind map. So let me just say I connect it this way. Now you might often draw branches which are connected to each other, and you'd like to be able to have the opportunity to show that connection visually. One of the ways you do it is using arrows, and it's the way I've depicted it here. This isn't really a good example of connection. Let's keep drawing this mind map further and see if we can find an example of a connection. Okay, a couple of other rules, especially when you're using a whiteboard to draw it. Your line length should be equal to your word length. So keep that in mind. And a couple of good practices with mind maps is to use colors, to use codes, to use variations, and your variations can be in size, style, so stuff like that. And most importantly, develop a personal style. And the way you could develop a personal style is having some notation for yourself, some symbols that you tend to use, which help you identify your own mind maps. The idea is not to bind yourself to standards. And as you can see, one of my standards or one of my personal styles is I don't use the word not. Instead, I use the exclamation mark. So I say not standards. You use personal notations. There are really no standards. The standard you set for yourself becomes the standard. So those are the rules. Couple of things about using colors and about using variations. You'd like to look at your mind map again and again. You'd like your mind map to be useful to you. You'd like to actually be attracted to the new idea you thought about. And which is why it's important to actually make your mind map very colorful, very beautiful. If I were to actually use this mind map further, I would go ahead and put loads and loads of pictures in here so that I'm attracted to this on a regular basis, and I can keep looking back at it, review it, make it better. This doesn't really apply to some of the mind maps that you might do in classroom, but trying to make your classroom mind maps beautiful, pretty, is perhaps a good idea because you're trying to get them out of a group brainstorming or a group discussion scenario. So as much ownership that most people see with that mind map, the better for you, because that's going to enhance the internalization of your teaching. So now let's take a look again at one of our other example mind maps. And this is a mind map on air travel safety. So if you see here, it's got, again, a central image. It's got some really, really strong, thick central lines, and you can make out what the top topics are. So on the right-hand side, you see aviate, navigate, communicate, and warning. And these look like the top really important topics. And then there are other topics, which is identifying, locating, isolating, and vacating. They give you the impression that they're not as important. And then again, under each of these, you've got different points that explain what you need to do when it comes to aviating, what needs to happen when it comes to navigating, when it comes to communicating, when it comes to warning, and then you've got things about the oxygen level, and there are a couple of diagrams out there. So if you see, it's a good representation of a visual mind map. As you can see, the author has gone ahead and used a lot of color. The colors are consistent, so all of the blue branch represents the aviate section, the navigate section is all represented in green, so on and so forth. So there's a lot of consistency in there, and you can make out which branch is connected to which.